Hello, Uta here of Trans Widow Uta Hagen YouTube channel and blog. All of a sudden we got closer. I don't know. Yes, and blog, WordPress blog, Uta Hagen grasswidow.wordpress.com. That will be in the notes. And okay, so this is the last, I think, of many takes that I have been engaging in today for Ondine. And I think that parts of her story are so much like mine that I don't know. I just stumbled and stuff like that. Oh, my right ear is too small for this thing. Okay. Hi, Uta. I included a narrative after each question. So she is Trans Widow number 45, answering my survey, 20 questions to ask a trans widow being a woman who has left the marriage with a husband who has usually suddenly revealed that he's into cross-dressing. Now, yes. And oh, that's my today's bouquet. I had that featured very close earlier when I was trying to do this, but so now you get to see it there on top of the Steinway that my guy, Claes, inherited. And oh, this is a beautiful photograph my father took of one of his peonies, and it's very dear to me. We must remember and honor our parents. You know, this is something that is just ignored by the cross-sex ideology. They think that they've invented something new. And what they can do, as far as I'm concerned, is find another planet to inhabit, where that's all just perfectly fine. We can call it the narcissist planet. I'm getting a little punchy. Okay, hi Uta, I included a narrative after each question. If any of it needs to be clarified, let me know. And you know what? She's really quite clear. I prefer to be anonymous, and that's why her name is Ondine, which is some kind of mythical water nymph, I think. But she realizes that she can help others. And so that's why she reached out to me, and I'm so proud of you, Ondine. Thanks for your podcast and work, and thank you. Thank you to all, everyone. Thank you to Vaishnavi Sundar. Thank you to my subscribers. Thank you to anyone who's just viewing. Please do hit the like and make a positive comment, even if it's just an emoji, because we really want to get the word out that there are risks that you're taking if you try to stay with a man like my ex-husband, whose pen name is Nettie. Okay, the first question, was it a revelation or a discovery? At first she says both, but then she sort of realizes it was a discovery. The significance of an early discovery was not clear until 5 years later. We all do that. We all ruminate about the past because it keeps on coming back to us, and the symbolism of some nonsense that he did, I'm just going to let that one drop, is, you know, evident, and it's really kind of distressing to realize that your past is different than what you thought it was. I mean, I suppose it's the same for anyone whose spouse had an affair or gambled or did secret things, drugs or something. So, yeah, I knew someone whose husband was a bigamist. Yeah. It is very much like that. It's a secret life. Okay. The significant, 5 years later, he dressed as a female on a holiday outing. You know, it could be a holiday, a party, you know, somebody's birthday party where they say it's a costume party, whatever excuse there is, okay? And he said, oh, she found a year later more women's clothing. And he said, that's for the next time since we had so much fun. Oh, gosh. Around the same time, I found calls made to a woman out of state on phone bills, so there was confusion over what appeared to be an affair. So this is a while ago, maybe, because, or else she's been handling all of the phone bills. Oh, well, it could be a joint thing. Well, it's interesting because it might be harder to find this now. But so I wonder, I surmise, it could have been someone who was engaging in pornographic phone sex. I have such a hard time wrapping my brain around that I cannot say it. We parted when our child was 2.5 years old. 5 years of high conflict co-parenting followed before he revealed his full-time female persona. Okay, so then the earlier discovery made sense. Okay, did he tell you it's under control and not that frequent and it escalated? Yes. But this is sort of like after the divorce. After his revelation, we agreed to seek therapy for our son. Wise thing to do, but you have to be very selective. Find somebody who's just about to retire, who's been doing it for 40 years. Okay, then he filed for child custody based on claims that earlier, when he was being the father, there was court bias against him. Right. Now, he's the one who called out of state to someone, right? So, like the presumptuousness, to say the least. He was represented by an attorney, and then the pleading that was filed made no logical sense. His 2 first attorneys dropped out. He cried a river and received pro bono representation. Family court allowed him to say misrepresentations about me while ignoring the elephant in the room, which is that you are claiming that you are no longer a father. My focus was on our child, who was having nightmares and behavioral issues at school. I had reports about that, and there were some nightmares, especially my older son had actually pretty serious ones where he'd get up. Both of them, actually. The younger one had sleepwalking. However, this was not given consideration. They're afraid of being accused of stuff. This is a while ago, like 15 years ago, I think. Okay, there was a problem paying a pediatrician. Oh, he borrowed money without my knowledge. The bottom line of our finances did not add up. The financial control was mainly what caused me to consider leaving him. Everything else was a cloud of confusion. Did he wear your clothing or makeup? More likely, yes. I consider this a yes. Not all of my belongings were returned to me when we separated. So it sounds like she left what had been their family home, and namely, what wasn't returned was her lingerie. She tells me he's quite a bit taller than her, so I cannot imagine how he could possibly fit it. She surmises he might be an autogynephile, a man who gets turned on by the thought of himself as a female. He strangely took on my persona over social media. Mutual friends would tell me. One therapist suggested that I should take this as a form of flattery. It was not. No, we don't appreciate this. It is not a form of flattery. This idea that any kind of imitation of female existence is a form of flattery is ludicrous, and it is obnoxious. No sex role play, not suggested by any therapist. Did he defame or vilify you? Yes. Over a period of 15 years, none of his claims were substantiated. He appeared to enjoy being in a spotlight, and the family court system unfortunately allows this. I came to believe this was, she thought it was maybe some unresolved things from his childhood. Classic narcissist. Did he claim to friends, a therapist, or anyone that you physically assaulted him? Yes, in fact, He filed a citizen's arrest with the police, and the police knocked on her door, and the police seemed to realize he was a schmuck, and they didn't arrest her. Well, zippity-doo-dah. The police would not enforce a false report charge against him. Now, you know, women are always accused of false reports. It's concerning. Okay, there was some kind of fiance that was involved, and who testified against her, but her testimony was dismissed because there was a problem with credibility. But this did not deter further claims. You know, because of these accusations and stuff, which came flying at me in the same way. I think this is why I'm having a hard time spitting it out. Did he attack you physically? Yes. As a male, he ran into me with his shoulder accidentally. I call this a shoulder check. And the thing is, men have a wider shoulder girdle. It's hard for a woman to do that. Okay, and she almost fell over. And she's significantly smaller. And she wonders about a car malfunction. She is trans widow number 2, to be concerned that he was doing something with her car. Like that I would call potentially murderous. Okay, and then as a female, in his female persona, he pushed me aside in the school parking area. I mean, how many other individuals in this world has he just kind of crashed into? You know, like, was he wearing high heels? Was that his excuse? Oh. Okay, now this is really serious. She should the police should have been called, and I understand why she didn't, because of something she says later. Another time he held a taser to my face and yelled in my face. I mean, this is really, really threatening, menacing behavior. And if he actually tased, you know, you can die of a heart attack from being tased. This is, and she was small. She's a small woman. This is just beyond. And she said the low number of physical incidents in comparison to the psychological verbal accusations made it seem not as significant. And that's the thing, is you're trying to keep all the balls in the air, you're working, you're trying to keep your child on the right track, and you've got this crazy female ghost of your husband pointing the finger at you and shrieking. He did not force unwanted sex on her. Did you live below the poverty line at any time? Yes. The child support system, often and still today for arrears, is unable to find his employment. You know, if you have the means, you might want to hire a private investigator. I feel that I should have done that at a certain point in time. Discovered his name change was not a legal name change, so they're probably looking under the wrong name. And courts would not address possible fraud. I mean, who knows what kind of hiding he's doing. He just is such a character. The son had an injury, and she took him or her to the hospital, and she found out that he was no longer employed where she thought, and that the insurance was canceled. Lovely. So she had to pay out of pocket for an emergency room visit. Okay. Nothing about members of the clergy. Did he or anyone else suggest you need to share Mother's Day? No. However, it appears that possibly teachers, influence the child to make a Mother's Day card, and this is a thing. This could be a separate question, I think. If I was going to do 21 questions. With my children, as soon as it happened, my younger one was in pre-K, and the older one was in, I think, second grade, and they have Mother's Day presents. I'm an early childhood teacher, retired, and I always tried to do equal schmequal with Mother's Day and Father's Day presents and stuff. Thank goodness I never had a parent like this in my 20 years of teaching. I never had. They would have ended up firing me, because I would have said to him, you can arrange for somebody else to make the so-called Mother's Day present. But the pre-K teacher dutifully had my 4-year-old son making the little clay statue and taking it home at Mother's Day. And I just, I really think that in honor of your children, out of respect for your children, you should recognize that, you're their father, and you should try to discreetly do some kind of Father's Day thing with them. This narcissistic, obnoxious insistence that you be recognized as a mother and be recognized on Mother's Day is just so wrong. Okay, she never had an individual therapy where a therapist said that, she has to make these female pronouns and stuff. However, in a few sessions with our child's therapist, I avoided pronouns and referred to the ex as other parent. And so this is likely in front of the child. So this is this gaslighting that is happening to the child. And this, I acquiesced and did that same thing too, to teachers and so on. But it's really abusive of us, and it's abusive of the children. It's psychologically abusive. It's mental cruelty, actually. Did you lose a set of friends? Yes. The situation was ongoing and became so toxic. So she, it's tough when you've been abused. Your friends are like, it's stressful for them. I had sort of like a list I would check off and try not to call or talk to anyone that I had just told a recent story or something like that. I did have a few very loyal friends. And I had a close friend who I gave a copy of my book, In the Curated Woods, True Tales from a Grass Widow, published by iUniverse in 2022. I had a friend who said she had to stop reading my book, and the thing is I really interspersed 50 nature photographs and my healing through gardening and walking and all this, and she couldn't take it, and she herself had left an abusive marriage. So it's I'm sort of training myself to think of it as data, and that's how I'm getting through these stories, because they are important. Okay, so she lost a set of friends. It's isolating. He did start self-identifying as mother. He called himself a single mom in the school community. And that's the thing that they do. They bring it up again and again to make sure that that's their status. Okay. Yeah, our child coped through denial and avoidance. The school personnel were confused but never asked. It's really terrible that you don't get recognized as the mother through this. I mean, the school staff, they're stuck. They're going to get sued if something. But this is just mental cruelty. Okay, so she had to go through this process of enforcement, and it wasn't her that called his place of work, but the enforcement people called his place of work to see if he was still working there, and then he claimed that was her harassment. Can you imagine? He's not paying child support. And then the regular process of confirming whether or not he's employed is gone through. Every deadbeat dad gets that, and he claims okay, I think he claimed it in court. Oh my goodness. And she even wonders if she would have been able to access now, in this time, the child's records pertaining to, in quotes, sensitive material. Okay, yes. He implied that her deciding to leave the marriage, where he's been spending money and been dishonest, making phone calls to someone out of state, and he claims that the stress of her ending the marriage, where he took on debt and she didn't know, right? He claims that the stress of that, the stress of losing that, caused him to need to cross-dress more. I mean, really, Dr. Ray Blanchard, can you please hear this part, our side of the story, please? Did he co-opt your experience of pregnancy, labor, or childbirth by claiming or implying he did that? Yes, that makes 3 of us. Yes, and, he did something really kind of awful. There was a doula, which is a childbirth kind of coach, kind of like a midwife, but usually the midwife or a doctor is there for the birth. And he apparently did something contacting this doula when she was in labor, and then the doula didn't come. Or else he was supposed to contact her and he didn't, and she had a long labor and ended up with a C-section. I'm so glad she didn't get talked into using a strap-on. Because we know about our sister who got damaged on her scar from trying to accommodate his insistence of that sex role play. There was nothing about, an affirming therapist that he chose, but he did thwart the therapy for the child by not paying for the therapy. And she thinks he wasn't ever in therapy, so maybe I hope he hasn't had the surgery. Let's see now. Some difficult teenage years for the child. She found out about the child, some kind of incident. Maybe it almost sounds like ex-hubby might have called the police or something. My goodness. But as a result of it, the child found the way home and is not speaking to his father, and that's what the father deserves. Did he put money in a secret account? Yes. His spending was secretive, and she paid for all sorts of stuff. And then she had to kind of change her hours and make less money so that she qualified for a certain kind of health insurance, low-income health insurance or something. So, the ramifications of this are just so deep and so outrageous. So 10 years after all of this kind of stuff, ex-hubby explored marriage, pregnancy, and later dating as a lesbian. There's something about other identities on his social media. I basically Google Nettie once a year at this point. I found out all I need to know. He's no longer the chief operating officer of his tech company. He's something called VP of growth. But then he's 68. He probably, is ready to retire and just live happily in his apartment worth $3 million that he's already paid off. Okay, my dears, please go outside and smell the flowers and count the butterflies. Maybe you can see my little butterfly pin there. I saw Eastern Tiger Swallowtail number 12, and that will help us all be well in mind and body, always.